Real quick, I'm going to run through my 2023 competition season, or in other words, my annual plan. The point of the annual plan is to systematically sequence your training so that you're peaked at the right time of the year. Every year after the national championships, I'll sit down and I'll put together my plan for the year. I'll come up with all of the dates of all my contests and design my programming based around those dates. So as you can see, we have the month of the year. We have what our periodization guide looks like. We have the sub phases underneath that, and then more specifically what those training priorities entail. So for instance, in a preparatory phase, it may be more of a volume or accumulation blocks. As you're going into a contest prep, you may be focused a little bit more towards intensification and peaking. So for this year, my goal was after Nationals in New Hampshire, or 2022, I wanted to qualify for 2023 Nationals early. I decided to sign up for New York Strongest Man, which is about a month later. What I really like to do is spend about half the year focusing on a really big competition and do generally a reach competition. So this year I found the Clash in Jersey. It's a pro-am and an opportunity to compete against some of the best guys in the area. So that was a no-brainer. It was a little bit later in the year than I would have liked, but for the most part, it gave me enough time to prepare, and then it would leave me more time to prepare for Nationals after that contest. So we have the Clash in Jersey, which was at the end of February. At the end of the year, we have 2023 Nationals, which just finished, which is the first week of June. So I pretty much had about a month to prepare for New York Strongest Man, and then I had about 5 months to prepare for the Clash in Jersey, and then I'd have about 3 or 4 months to prepare for USS Nationals. So I only had about a month to prepare for New York Strongest Man, and for the most part, after peaking for Nationals, I'm already at a pretty good level of strength. Pretty straightforward. I just kind of ran a traditional strength block and incorporated a bunch of the events and trained as specific as possible. And then once I qualified for Nationals, I was able to set up the rest of my calendar year. So the Clash in Jersey was going to be about 5 months after that. That gave me a ton of time to actually have an off season to focus on building some more general strength capabilities, improving my body composition, putting on some size, and building a really strong base before I then decide to peak for that specific contest. So a quick run through of how this kind of plays out. You do some general prep work and specific prep work for your preparatory phase. So this would be more of a volume or an accumulation phases, maybe some general strength training, a little bit less specific strongman event training, more working on areas of weakness. Once you're in the competitive phase and you actually start your contest prep, that could be anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks out. You're going to focus a lot more on specific events, on peaking your strength and training the specific capabilities that are going to be tested in your next contest. So another caveat that goes hand in hand with your training is what you're doing with your nutrition. There are certain times of the year that certain nutrition strategies are better than others. So during a preparatory phase or an off season, that's the time to work on your body composition, whether it's cutting, massing, or recomping. When you're trying to peak for a competition and you're doing a lot more event-specific training, generally the volume is going to be much lower, and it's not the time to really be adjusting and working on changing your body composition or cutting. So I started the first part of my preparatory phase by trying to recomp and actually improve my body composition a little bit before I started a mass phase. So after I put on some weight, I went more into my contest prep and really just started focusing a lot more recovery and performance when it comes to nutrition. As far as your peaking phase, generally you're going to train very specific to your event contest. A lot of the goal is to decay fatigue, drop fatigue, so you're peaked and at your very best for the day of the contest in the specific demands that are being tested. So after the Clash in Jersey, I qualified for Clash on the Coast, super excited, and then I was like, oh my God, I have 5 weeks to prepare for this. What the hell do I do? So the contest was broken up into, I think, 5 or 6 groups of 5 or 6 athletes, I forget. And there was a qualifying round, and the following day, the top 2 guys in each group would qualify for the finals. I did not make it out of the qualifying group, but I was very happy with my performance. As far as the preparation for this, I stayed very specific to the events in the qualifying rounds, just because I'd never been there before, and I figured that should be my priority. If you were to hypothetically get to the finals, awesome, great. But for me, just being there was kind of a win, so I was going to focus on what I know I'm going to see. The tough thing is that Clash in Jersey was a 2-day competition. Pretty much started the following weekend. You can only push yourself so hard because you're coming down from a competition, you have to recover from that. You could trade hard for a couple weeks, and then you have to taper down for the next competition. So it really was an ideal situation, but all things considered, I'm very happy with the way that it played out. Now, the fact that I got into that competition, I was on the fence about doing USS Nationals because generally I'd like to have a 20 or 24 week prep. But the thing is that I had gained weight. I had gotten up to about 238 to do Clash on the Coast. and my base strength was pretty high already. So what I decided to do was I said, look, I have 10 weeks to prepare and it's not a ton of time, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Usually when I'm about 10 weeks out, you're just going to do a lot more intensification blocks, lower volume, a lot more event specific training. But because of the fact that I had tapered down and did 2 or 3 strength blocks followed by a peaking phase, and then had Clash of the Coast, another like 3 or 4 week block of another kind of intensification and tapering phase, I wanted to get a little bit more volume in. One, because I wanted to improve, I needed to drop weight, and holding on to as much muscle tissue as you want as you're in a caloric deficit, if you do very low volume programming, it's gonna be hard to do that. It's just not optimal. The second thing is USS Nationals isn't that heavy by comparison to Clash on the Coast. Therefore, doing some volume work and doing a lot more repetition work actually is going to carry over quite well. I pretty much ran a 5-week volume block followed by a 5-week intensification block. So training a little bit higher rep ranges, a little bit more general in nature, and then the second block was very specific and really ramped up the intensity. And I ended up doing really well. I ended up taking 3rd out of 61 in the 220 weight class. I was very pleased with this performance, and I really didn't think they were great events for me, but I decided to do it anyway, go outside my comfort zone, and just go for it, and I'm really glad that I did. So now that my competition season's over, I got a plan for what I want to do in the 2024 season. Main takeaway for this video is to plan your training out. The more you can plan, the better prepared you're going to be, and the more it's going to help you in the long run.